Story 1. It started on a quiet night. I wasn't even supposed to be working that shift. Graveyard rotations at airports are different. Quieter, slower, but also heavier. Like the whole place is holding its breath. Most people think airports are always busy, always loud, always full of life. That's only true during the day. At 2:17 a.m., it feels like something else entirely. My name's Daniel Reeves. I worked overnight security at a small regional airport just outside Denver. Nothing major, no international chaos, just a handful of late arrivals, cargo flights, and long stretches of silence. That night started normal, too normal, the kind of normal that makes you uneasy later when you realize it wasn't normal at all. I remember checking the schedule board near Gate C. There was only one incoming flight left, Flight 427, delayed, no big deal. Happens all the time. Estimated arrival, 2:45 a.m. I leaned against the counter, sipping burnt coffee, watching the empty terminal stretch out in front of me, fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead, vending machines humming, the occasional echo of footsteps that weren't mine. That's when I first noticed something. The gate display flickered, just for a second, then it corrected itself. Flight 427, on time. I frowned. It wasn't on time. It had been delayed for over an hour. I pulled out my radio. Control, you seeing this update on 427? Static. Then a voice, but not the one I expected. Already landed. I straightened. That's not possible, I said. I'm at Gate C. No plane here. Silence. Then, you might want to check again. The line went dead. I don't know why. But something about that exchange didn't sit right with me. Still, protocol is protocol, so I walked toward the gate. The hallway lights seemed dimmer than before, or maybe I was just imagining it. My footsteps echoed louder than usual, like the space was empty in a way that didn't feel natural. When I reached the glass windows overlooking the runway, I froze. There was a plane, parked, completely still, no ground crew, no movement, just sitting there like it had always been there. Flight 427. I checked my watch, 2:31 a.m. It shouldn't have landed yet, and yet, there it was. I felt this pressure in my chest, not fear exactly, just something off. I keyed my radio again. Control, I've got visual on 427. When did it land? No response, just static. I sighed and stepped closer to the gate door. That's when I noticed something else. The jet bridge was already connected, but no one had called it in. No announcement, no passengers, no crew, nothing, just silence. I hesitated. Who connects a jet bridge without clearance? Who just leaves it like that? I don't know why, but I opened the door. The air inside the jet bridge felt colder than it should have been, not freezing, just wrong, like walking into a room that's been empty for too long. My footsteps slowed as I moved forward, each step echoing softly. Halfway through, I heard something, a faint sound, like whispering. I stopped, listened. Nothing, just the hum of the airport behind me. I told myself it was nothing, just nerves. But then, I heard it again, closer, soft, unclear, like multiple voices speaking at once. I turned around. The terminal behind me looked normal, empty, but normal. When I turned back toward the plane, the aircraft door was open. I swear, it wasn't open before. I stood there for a second, debating. Every instinct I had told me not to go further, but protocol, always protocol. So I stepped onto the plane. The cabin lights were on, dim, but on. Rows of seats stretching back into the darkness. No movement, no passengers. At least, that's what I thought. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded swallowed, like the plane didn't want to carry it. I took a step forward, then another. Everything looked normal, but felt wrong. Seatbelts unbuckled, tray tables up, no luggage, no signs of anyone. But the air, it felt occupied. You ever walk into a room and just know someone's there, even if you can't see them? That's what it felt like. I moved slowly down the aisle, row by row, heart pounding. Louder now. Then I noticed something. A seatbelt, fastened, on an empty seat. I stopped, stared at it. That didn't make sense. No one was there, so who buckled it? I reached out and touched the strap. It was warm, not just warm, recently used warm. I pulled my hand back immediately. Nope, I muttered. Nope. That's when I heard it, right behind me, a voice, soft, barely there. Don't. I spun around. Nothing. Empty aisle, empty seats, but I felt it, something standing just out of sight, watching, waiting. My breathing got heavier. I started backing up, slowly, not taking my eyes off the aisle. That's when I noticed every seatbelt in the row ahead of me was now fastened. I hadn't seen that before. I know I hadn't. I stumbled back a step, then another, and as I did, click, another belt fastened, on its own, click, another. Row by row, like something invisible was sitting down, one seat at a time. I turned and ran. I didn't care about protocol anymore. I just ran, down the jet bridge, back into the terminal. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. I slammed the door behind me and locked it, leaning against it, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what I just saw. Then, my radio crackled, the same voice as before. Calm, too calm. Did you check the passenger list? I stared at the radio. What passenger list? Silence. Then, they never left. The line went dead again. I didn't go back. I didn't finish my shift. I walked straight out of that airport and never came back. The next day, I checked the news. Nothing. No record of Flight 427 landing that night. No delays. No arrivals. No reports. Like it never existed. But here's the part that still keeps me up. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to, so I did. I didn't say anything, just listened. At first, there was nothing. Then, a soft sound, click. Then another, click, and another, click, like seatbelts fastening, one by one, slowly, patiently, and then a whisper right into the phone. You left your seat. The call ended, and I haven't answered an unknown number since. Story 2. My name's Marcus Hale, and at the time, I worked baggage handling at a mid-sized airport in Ohio. Nothing glamorous, just loading, unloading, scanning, stacking, hours of repetition. You stop thinking after a while, you just move. That's why I remember that night so clearly, because something made me stop. It was around 3:10 a.m. when Flight 882 came in, a red-eye from Seattle, late like always. Passengers looked half asleep as they shuffled through the terminal, dragging their carry-ons, eyes glazed, barely present. I didn't pay them much attention. I never did. My job started when the plane emptied. We rolled the carts out, popped the cargo hold, and started unloading luggage. Suitcases, duffel bags, the usual mix. Nothing special, until I saw it. A suitcase, black, hard shell, no tags. That alone wasn't unusual. Tags fall off all the time, but this one felt different. I don't know how to explain it better than that. It just stood out, like it didn't belong with the others. I grabbed it and immediately noticed the weight. Too light, not empty, but wrong, like it should have had something inside, but didn't anymore. Yo, Marcus, my coworker Tyler called out, you zoning out again. I shook it off and tossed the suitcase onto the cart. Yeah, coming. We finished unloading, brought everything to baggage claim, and started placing them on the carousel. Standard procedure. Bags go around, passengers grab them, end of story. Except this one didn't get picked up. Everyone left. Lights dimmed, carousel slowed to a stop, and that suitcase was still there. I stood staring at it, hands on my hips. Lost bag, I muttered. Happens all the time. I grabbed it again, and that's when I noticed something new. There was a tag. I swear, there wasn't one before. I flipped it over. Name, Olivia Turner. No address, no phone number, just the name. I frowned. Great, super helpful. I carried it to the back office, where we kept unclaimed baggage, a small room with metal shelves that always smelled like dust and old fabric. I set the suitcase down on the table, and for a second, I thought I heard something. From inside, a soft, shifting sound. I froze, listened, nothing. I let out a breath and shook my head. You're tired, man. But then it happened again, a faint thump, like something moving, inside the suitcase. I stepped back, heart starting to beat faster. Okay, not funny, I said out loud, even though I was alone. I leaned in slowly, placing my hand on the shell, still, cold. Then, a vibration, quick, subtle, but real. I pulled my hand back immediately. Nope, nope, nope. I grabbed my radio. Hey, anyone in lost baggage with me? Static. Then Tyler's voice. Nah, man, I'm clocking out. You good? I hesitated. Yeah, I'm good. I wasn't good. I stared at that suitcase for a long moment. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I unlatched it, slowly. The clicks sounded louder than they should have, like the room was amplifying everything. I lifted the lid. Inside, nothing. Completely empty. I blinked. What? No lining disturbed, no hidden compartments, just empty space. I let out a nervous laugh. Okay, yeah, I'm losing it. I closed it again, locked it, stepped away. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Because as I turned to leave, I heard it again, from behind me, a whisper, soft, clear. Don't leave me. I froze, every muscle locked. Slowly, I turned back toward the suitcase. It hadn't moved, still sitting there, quiet, but the air in the room felt different now, heavier, like I wasn't alone anymore. Hello? I said, my voice barely steady. No response, just silence. I took a step closer, then another, and as I did, the suitcase shifted, just slightly, on its own. I stopped, stared. That's not possible. I whispered it, like saying it quietly would make it less real. Then, the latch clicked. One side, by itself. My chest tightened. Nope, I said, backing up. Nope, I'm done. I turned and walked out fast, not running, but close. I shut the door behind me and stood in the hallway, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself I imagined all of it. But something was wrong. I could feel it, like something had followed me out. I went to clock out, hands shaking a little now. Tyler was already gone. The place felt emptier than usual, too quiet. As I walked past the baggage carousel, I stopped. There it was, the suitcase, sitting on the belt, going in slow circles. My stomach dropped. No. I walked closer, slowly, like it might react. The tag was still there. Olivia Turner. But now, there was something else. A second tag, attached underneath. I didn't see it before. I pulled it up, and my chest went cold. It had my name on it. Marcus Hale. Same handwriting, same style, same everything. I dropped the tag like it burned me. What the hell is this? The carousel kept moving, slow, endless, carrying that suitcase around and around. I stepped back. Then I heard it again, right next to my ear, closer than before. You forgot me. I spun around. Nothing, no one, empty terminal, but the feeling. It was right there, breathing, waiting, watching. I didn't finish my shift, didn't report it, didn't tell anyone. I just left, and I didn't come back the next day, or the next, or ever. I tried to forget about it, told myself it was stress, sleep deprivation, anything but what it felt like. But then, 3 nights later, I got a delivery. No return address, just a plain box sitting outside my apartment door. I stared at it for a long time before bringing it inside. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did, slowly, carefully. Inside was the suitcase, same black shell, same tag, Olivia Turner, and underneath, Marcus Hale. My hands started shaking again. I stepped back. Okay, this isn't real. But then, the latch clicked on its own, the lid lifted just slightly, and from inside, I heard it. Clearer than ever, right there, inside my apartment. Now you're here. I slammed it shut, locked it, pushed it into the closet, and I haven't opened that door since. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear something from inside, a soft shifting, a faint whisper, like someone trying to move in a space that's too small. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear my own voice calling out from inside that suitcase, and that's when I wonder if I really left that airport at all, or if something else came back instead. Story 3. It started on a quiet night, the kind where the airport lights feel too bright and everything else feels too still, like the building is awake but everyone inside it isn't. My name's Ethan Cole, and I used to work overnight cleaning crew at a large airport in Texas, not the main flashy terminals. I was assigned to Terminal D, the one that barely got used after midnight. Fewer flights, fewer people, easier job, at least that's what I thought. My shift started at 1:30 a.m. By then, most gates were empty, chairs lined up perfectly, screens looping the same delayed flights over and over again like they forgot how to update. You learn the rhythm after a while. Mop, wipe, move, repeat. You don't expect anything new. That's why I noticed it immediately when something felt off. It was gate D14. I remember because I had already cleaned it once earlier that night. Trash emptied, floors spotless, chairs aligned, done. But when I passed by again around 2:40 a.m., it wasn't the same. The chairs were moved. Not messy, not overturned, just slightly out of place, like someone had been sitting there recently. I stopped pushing my cart, stared at the gate. That's weird, I muttered. I checked the display screen above. No scheduled departures, no arrivals, just a blank loop. No reason for anyone to be there. Still, I walked in, slowly. The air felt colder than the hallway, not freezing, just enough to notice. I started adjusting the chairs again, lining them back up, telling myself maybe a late passenger came through and left. Happens sometimes. But then, I noticed something else. A boarding pass, sitting on one of the seats. I picked it up. The paper felt fresh, not crumpled, not used, like it had just been printed. Flight 909, destination Newark, gate D14, time 2:15 a.m. I checked my watch, 2:43. That flight wasn't on the schedule. Not earlier, not now, not at all. Okay, I whispered. Maybe I missed it, but I knew I hadn't. I'm there every night. Same routes, same gates, same empty spaces. There's no way I would have missed a boarding call, a plane, passengers, something. I turned the boarding pass over. No name, just a blank line. That's when I heard it. A soft beep. I looked up. The gate scanner, the one passengers used to board. It lit up, green. Then again, beep, like someone was scanning a pass, but there was no one there. I froze, watching it, waiting. Beep, again, slow, steady, like a line of invisible passengers, boarding one by one. My throat went dry. Nope, I said quietly. Nope, I'm not doing this tonight. I started backing away, but then the screen above the gate flickered, the blank loop disappeared. And for a split second, I saw it. Flight 909, boarding. My chest tightened. I stepped closer without thinking. The letters glitched, stretched, then snapped back to blank, like it didn't want to be seen for too long. I swallowed, hard. Then I heard footsteps, behind me, soft, slow. I turned around, no one, empty terminal. But the sound didn't stop. It continued, past me, toward the gate. Step, 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 like someone walking right by, just out of sight. Then the scanner beeped again. Green light, another passenger. My hands started shaking. I could feel something building, like pressure in my ears, like the air itself was getting heavier. Okay, that's enough, I whispered. I grabbed my cart and turned to leave, but that's when I heard it. A voice, calm, close, right behind me. Final boarding. I spun around so fast, I almost slipped. Nothing. No one. But the gate. It looked different now. The lights inside the jet bridge were on. I hadn't turned them on. I know I hadn't. They glowed softly, leading into darkness. And the door. It was open. I stared at it. My body telling me to leave. My feet not moving. Why does that happen? Why do you freeze when you know something's wrong? I don't know. But I stepped forward, slowly. The air near the jet bridge felt colder, heavier, like walking into something you can't see. I stopped at the entrance, just stood there, listening. At first, nothing. Then, faint voices, not clear, not loud, just there, like a full cabin of people talking quietly, layered over each other, impossible to understand. My heart was pounding now, loud, fast. I leaned slightly, trying to see inside. The jet bridge stretched out, dim lights flickering, no movement, but the sound, it was definitely coming from inside. That's when I noticed something on the floor. More boarding passes, scattered, like they had been dropped. I crouched down, picked one up. Same thing, Flight 909. No name. I looked ahead again, and for just a second, I thought I saw something. A shape, standing at the far end of the jet bridge, still, watching. I blinked. It was gone. My chest tightened even more. Yeah, I'm done. I stood up and turned to leave, but behind me, the gate area had changed. The chairs, every single one, was now occupied, not by people, not fully, but shapes, dark, sitting, facing forward, completely still. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move, couldn't look away. And then, slowly, one of them turned its head toward me. I ran. I didn't think, I didn't question it. I just ran, left my cart, left everything. I ran until I hit the staff hallway, slammed the door behind me, and just stood there shaking. My heart wouldn't slow down. My hands wouldn't stop. I stayed there for a long time, maybe 10 minutes, maybe more. I didn't go back. I told my supervisor I felt sick and left early. I didn't tell anyone what happened, because how do you explain that? How do you say you saw a flight that doesn't exist, boarding passengers that aren't there? I tried to forget about it. I really did, but 2 nights later, curiosity got me, or maybe something else did. I checked the system logs. Employee access lets you see scheduled flights, past, present, future. I typed it in, Flight 909, nothing. No record, no history, no cancellation, no delay, just nothing, like it was never real. I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I checked the archived logs, older data, years back, and that's when I found something. A single entry, Flight 909, date, 8 years ago, status, boarded. No departure recorded, no arrival, just boarded. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen. What does that even mean? I whispered. Then I noticed something else. Passenger count, full, every seat taken, no names listed, just numbers, and at the bottom, 1 extra entry, crew, 1. That didn't make sense. Planes don't fly with 1 crew member. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process it, trying to come up with any logical explanation, but nothing fit, nothing made sense. That's when I heard it again, that same voice, right behind me, calm, close. Gate D14. I froze, slowly turned my head. Empty office, empty hallway, but the computer screen, it changed. The archived log disappeared, replaced by something else. A boarding list, names this time, dozens of them, filling the screen. I scanned them quickly, normal names, American names. Nothing unusual, until I reached the bottom. My name, Ethan Cole, seat assigned, 23A, boarding time, 2:15 a.m. My chest went cold, my hands stopped moving. I stared at it, hoping it would disappear, glitch, anything, but it didn't. Then the printer next to me turned on, by itself. Loud, sudden. I jumped back. Paper started feeding through. Slow, steady, printing something. I didn't want to look. I really didn't, but I did. It was a boarding pass. Flight 909, Gate D14, Seat 23A. My name printed clearly across the top. The paper slid out, landing gently on the tray. And then, the screen went black. Everything went quiet again, like nothing had happened. I didn't take the boarding pass. I didn't go back to that gate. I quit the next day. No notice, no explanation, just left. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed, trying to sleep, I hear it, faint, distant, a boarding call. Final boarding for Flight 909. And for a moment, just a moment, I feel like if I open my eyes, I won't be in my room anymore. I'll be sitting in seat 23A, surrounded by people who never existed, waiting for a plane that never takes off. And honestly, I keep my eyes closed because I don't know what happens if I answer that call. Story 4. It started on a quiet night, the kind where the sky outside the airport looks completely still. No planes crossing, no blinking lights, just darkness stretching forever. My name's Ryan Fletcher, and I used to work as a junior co-pilot for a regional airline based out of Arizona. I wasn't experienced enough to command flights yet, mostly assisting, running checks, monitoring systems, the routine stuff. Most nights were predictable. You follow procedure, you trust the instruments, you land, you go home. That's it. That's how it's supposed to be. But that night, something didn't follow procedure. We were assigned a late cargo repositioning flight. No passengers, just me, Captain Howard Briggs, and an empty aircraft that needed to be moved to a different airport in Nevada. Simple, quiet, routine. Departure time was 2:05 a.m., weather clear, visibility perfect, no reported issues, the kind of flight pilots actually like. We completed pre-flight checks, everything normal, engines smooth, instruments stable, no warnings, nothing out of place. We took off right on schedule, lifting into the dark sky with nothing but city lights fading below us. I remember thinking how calm everything felt, almost too calm. You ever get that feeling, like things are going a little too perfectly? That's how it was. We reached cruising altitude quickly, leveled out, autopilot engaged, standard procedure. Captain Briggs leaned back slightly, relaxed. "Easy one tonight," he said. I nodded. "Yeah, almost boring," he chuckled. "Careful what you wish for." I wish I had listened to that. About 20 minutes into the flight, something changed. It wasn't dramatic. No alarms, no sudden drops, just a flicker. One of the screens on my panel blinked, just once. Then it stabilized. I frowned. "You see that?" I asked. Briggs glanced over. "Probably just a minor glitch." "Happens." I nodded, but something about it didn't sit right. I kept watching the panel. Everything looked normal again. Numbers steady, systems green. But then, it happened again. Another flicker, slightly longer this time. I leaned forward. "Okay, that's not nothing." Briggs sat up a bit straighter now. "Check the diagnostics." I ran a quick system check. No errors, no warnings. Everything came back clean. "Nothing showing," I said. He frowned slightly. "Keep an eye on it." I did, and for a few minutes, everything stayed normal, too normal. Then, the radio crackled. Not unusual, but the sound, it wasn't right. Distorted, warped, like two signals overlapping. Briggs reached for it. "Control, this is Flight 76-2. You're coming in unclear." Static, then a voice, but not from control. It sounded wrong, like it was being stretched, slowed down. "Maintain altitude." Briggs and I exchanged a look. "That's not tower," he said quietly. He tried again. "Tower, confirm instructions." Nothing, just static, then silence. I felt a chill run through me. "Did you recognize that voice?" I asked. He shook his head. "No." We both sat there, listening, waiting, but nothing came back, just empty radio silence. I looked down at the instruments again, and that's when I saw it. Our altitude. It was changing, slowly, dropping. "Hey, we're descending," I said. Briggs looked immediately. "Autopilot's on." "Yeah, but it's lowering us." He grabbed the controls, checked settings. "That's not possible." He tried to override it. Nothing. The system wasn't responding. The plane continued descending, smooth, controlled, but not commanded. My heart started picking up. "Should we disengage autopilot?" I asked. "I am trying," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. Then the screen flickered again. This time, it didn't come back the same. The numbers were still there, but something else was on the display. A second altitude reading, slightly above ours, mirroring us. I leaned closer. "What is that?" Briggs followed my gaze. His expression changed. Not confusion, something else, something tighter. That shouldn't be there. The second reading moved, slowly, matching our descent, like another aircraft, right above us. But we hadn't seen anything on radar, nothing at all. I checked again. Radar screen was clear, completely empty. "There's nothing there," I whispered. Briggs didn't respond. He was staring at the display. The second reading got closer, closing the gap. "Ryan," he said quietly, "do you see that?" "Yeah." My voice felt thin. The gap between the two readings kept shrinking. Then, the radio crackled again. That same distorted voice, closer now, clearer. "Lower." My hands tightened on the controls. "No," Briggs said under his breath. "We're not following that." He pulled harder against the autopilot override. Still nothing. The plane continued descending, and the second reading, it was almost on top of us now. "There should be collision warnings," I said. "Something should trigger." But nothing did. No alarms, no alerts, just silence. And that second presence, right above us. Then, suddenly, the cockpit lights dimmed, not off, just lower, like something was draining power. The instruments flickered again, and for a brief moment, the second reading disappeared. I let out a breath. Okay, maybe it's gone. It came back, directly on top of us, same altitude, same position, exactly overlapping. I felt my chest tighten. That's not possible. Briggs didn't say anything. He just stared forward. Then, slowly, he looked up, not at the instruments, at the windshield. I followed his gaze. At first, I didn't see anything, just darkness, endless sky. But then, I noticed it, a shape, faint, massive, directly above us, blocking out the stars. My breath caught. It wasn't another plane, not any plane I've ever seen. No lights, no markings, just a dark, solid presence, moving with us, perfectly aligned. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The radio crackled again. This time, the voice sounded almost amused. "Stay with us." Briggs slammed his hand against the controls. "No." And just like that, everything snapped back. The lights returned to normal. The second reading vanished. The descent stopped. The autopilot disengaged. Silence filled the cockpit. Thick, heavy. We were back at stable altitude. No other aircraft on radar. No abnormal readings. Nothing. Like it never happened. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, Briggs said quietly, "We're not reporting this." I nodded immediately. "Yeah." "Because how do you report that? What do you even say?" We completed the flight, landed safely, no issues, no questions. Everything looked normal on record, but it wasn't, because 2 nights later, I checked the flight logs, just to be sure, just to convince myself it was a glitch, something explainable. But there was one detail, one thing that didn't match. Recorded altitude drop, exactly matching what we experienced. But that wasn't the worst part. The system had logged something else. Traffic proximity detected. 1 aircraft, no ID, no transponder, no record, just present. I stared at that entry for a long time. Then I closed the file. I didn't check again. I left that job a month later, told people I wanted something different, something stable. But the truth is, I couldn't get that image out of my head, that shape above us, moving perfectly with us, watching, waiting, and sometimes, when I'm on a regular flight now, just as a passenger, I catch myself looking up through the window, into the dark, searching, because part of me knows that thing is still out there. Story 5. Most people think the scariest part of flying is turbulence, or maybe a rough landing, but for me, it's what happens when everything is too smooth, too quiet, like the plane is moving through something it shouldn't be. My name's Laura Bennett, and I used to work as a flight attendant on long-haul overnight routes. You learn to read people, read situations, but more importantly, you learn to notice when something feels off, even if you can't explain why. That flight, it was supposed to be routine, red-eye from Chicago to San Francisco, full cabin, nothing unusual on paper. Boarding went normal, passengers settling in, overhead bins slamming shut. The usual mix of tired travelers and restless energy, but there was one passenger I noticed right away, not because he was loud or disruptive, but because he didn't seem to belong. Seat 17C, middle-aged man, pale, completely still, no carry-on, no phone, no eye contact, just sitting there, staring straight ahead. I remember thinking maybe he was just nervous. Some people hate flying, happens all the time, but something about him stayed with me. During takeoff, most passengers look out the window, grip their armrests, adjust their seats, but not him. He didn't move, not once, just sat there, like he wasn't reacting to anything. Once we reached cruising altitude, the cabin lights dimmed, people started settling in, some watching movies, others already asleep. I started my usual walk down the aisle, checking seatbelts, offering water, making sure everything was okay. When I reached row 17, I slowed down. The man was still in the exact same position, same posture, same stare. I leaned slightly. "Sir, can I get you anything? Water, snacks?" No response, not even a blink. I frowned. "Sir?" Still nothing. I felt a small knot form in my chest. I glanced at the passenger next to him, a woman. She looked uncomfortable. "Has he said anything?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "No, he's been like that since we boarded." I nodded slowly. "Okay, let me know if anything changes." I moved on, but I couldn't shake it. Something wasn't right. About an hour later, most of the cabin was asleep. Lights low, engines humming steadily. That deep, heavy quiet that only happens on overnight flights. I went back to check again. Row 17. Same man, same position. But now, something had changed. His eyes, they were open wider. Not wide like surprised, wide like fixed, unblinking. I felt a chill. I leaned closer. "Sir, are you feeling okay?" Still nothing. I hesitated, then reached out slightly, waving my hand in front of his face. No reaction. That's when I decided to get the senior attendant. We came back together. She crouched slightly, speaking softly. "Sir, can you hear me?" Silence. She exchanged a look with me. "Okay, we'll need to check on this." She gently touched his shoulder, and the moment she did, his head tilted. Not naturally, not like someone reacting. It just shifted, slow, loose, like it wasn't held in place properly. My stomach dropped. The woman in 17B gasped quietly. "Oh my God." The senior attendant pulled her hand back immediately. Her face changed, calm but tense. "Laura, get the captain." I nodded and walked quickly toward the front. My heart beat louder now. Something was very wrong. When the captain came out, we explained everything quietly. He followed us back, checked the passenger, looked closer, then stood up slowly. His expression, I won't forget it. He didn't say much, just nodded once. "We'll handle it," he said quietly. We moved the nearby passengers to other seats as discreetly as possible. People were confused, whispering, but no one really knew what was happening. We covered the man with a blanket, standard protocol. But here's the thing. When I adjusted the blanket, I felt something. His arm. It wasn't stiff. It wasn't completely still either. It felt loose, too loose, like there was no resistance at all. I pulled my hand back, trying not to think about it. The rest of the flight continued, quiet, uneasy, like the entire cabin could feel something was off, even if they didn't know what. I avoided row 17 as much as I could, but every time I passed by, I felt it, like someone was watching, even though I knew that wasn't possible. Hours passed, slowly. Finally, we began descent into San Francisco. Lights came on, passengers woke up, everything started returning to normal, or at least it looked like it. After landing, we followed procedure. Everyone deplaned first. No one questioned the covered seat too much. People just assumed someone was sick or sleeping. Once the plane emptied, we prepared for ground crew to come in. That's when things got worse, because when we removed the blanket, the seat was empty, completely empty. I stared at it, my brain not processing. No. The senior attendant checked under the seats, the aisle, everywhere. Nothing. The man was gone. "That's not possible," the captain said, his voice tighter now. "No one leaves without being seen." We checked the manifest, seat 17C. It was listed, name, Daniel Hurst. But when we cross-checked boarding scans, there was no record of him boarding, no ticket scanned, no ID, nothing, like he was never there. The woman from 17B, we found her at the gate, asked her about the man. She looked confused. "What man?" My chest went cold. "The one sitting next to you." She shook her head slowly. I was alone the whole flight. I couldn't speak. None of us could. Everything felt wrong, like reality had shifted slightly, just enough to not make sense anymore. We filed a report. Of course we did. But nothing came of it. No investigation, no follow-up, just silence, like it was easier to pretend it didn't happen. I quit a few weeks later. Couldn't keep flying after that. Couldn't sit in that space again. But here's the part that still gets to me. Sometimes, when I'm on a flight as a passenger now, I'll be walking down the aisle, and I'll glance at seat numbers. Row 17, every time. And once, just once, I saw it. Seat 17C, occupied, same man, same stillness, same empty stare. I stopped walking, my heart racing, but when I looked again, the seat was empty, no one there, nothing unusual, and the worst part is, I don't know if he's appearing on random flights, or if he's just waiting for the right one. Story 6. Airports aren't supposed to have places that don't exist. Every gate, every hallway, every service corridor is mapped, labeled, documented, but that's only true during the day. My name's Kevin Morales, and I worked maintenance at a major airport in California, mostly overnight shifts, fixing lighting issues, electrical panels, small repairs no one notices unless they stop working. You learn the layout fast, or at least you think you do. That night started like any other. A work order came through around 2:25 a.m. about flickering lights near gate F22. Nothing urgent, just annoying enough that someone reported it. I grabbed my toolkit and headed out. The terminal mostly empty, cleaning crews in the distance. A few scattered passengers asleep in chairs. Everything normal, until I got close to F22. The lights weren't just flickering. They were pulsing, slow and uneven, like they were reacting to something instead of malfunctioning. I stepped closer, looking up at the fixtures, trying to figure out if it was wiring or voltage fluctuation, but then I noticed something else. The gate sign. It didn't say F22 anymore. It said F27. I stopped, stared at it. "That's not right," I muttered. "There is no F27. That terminal only goes up to F24. I've worked there long enough to know that without thinking. I checked the surrounding gates. F21, F22 should have been next, but instead, there it was, F27. Clean sign, proper font, not broken, not glitched, just wrong. I felt a slight tension in my chest, the kind you get when something small doesn't line up, but you can't explain why. I walked closer anyway. Maybe signage got replaced. Maybe I missed something. That's what I told myself. The seating area was empty. No passengers, no staff, just rows of chairs and the faint hum of the building. But the air felt different, colder, stiller, like sound didn't travel the same way. I glanced at the departure screen above the gate. It flickered once, then displayed something. Flight 311, boarding, destination, blank. No city, no time, just the word boarding. My grip tightened around my toolkit. "Okay, this isn't funny," I whispered, even though no one was around. That's when I heard it, a boarding chime, soft, familiar. The kind you hear all the time, but not at 2:30 in the morning, not at a gate that shouldn't exist. Then, a voice over the speaker, calm, flat, "Now boarding." The message cut off halfway, like it didn't finish. I felt my skin tighten. I should have walked away. I know that now. But I didn't. I stepped closer to the gate door. The jet bridge was connected, lights on, door slightly open, and from inside, I could hear movement. Not loud, just enough to know something was there. Footsteps, slow, dragging slightly, I swallowed hard. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded smaller than usual. No response, just that faint movement. I pushed the door open a little more. The jet bridge stretched out ahead of me, dimly lit, walls slightly darker than normal, like the light wasn't reaching properly. I took one step inside, then another. The temperature dropped immediately, not freezing, but enough that I could feel it in my arms. Halfway down, I stopped, because I saw someone, at the far end, standing still, facing away from me. I couldn't see details, just a shape, human, I think. "Hey, you can't be here," I said, trying to sound firm. No response. The figure didn't move, didn't react, just stood there. Then, slowly, it started walking, not toward me, away, into the plane. I felt a sudden urge to follow, not curiosity exactly, more like something pulling me forward. Step by step, I moved closer. The sounds inside grew clearer, not just footsteps anymore. Voices, low, overlapping, like a full cabin murmuring. But there hadn't been a flight scheduled. Not here, not now. I reached the aircraft door. It was open, wider than before, and inside, I saw them. Passengers, every seat filled, sitting still, facing forward, none of them talking, none of them moving, just there. The voices I heard, they weren't coming from mouths, they were just present, filling the space. I felt my heart start racing. "This isn't real," I whispered. One of the passengers turned its head, slow, deliberate, then another and another, until every single one was facing me. Their faces, I can't explain it properly. They looked normal, but not complete, like something was missing behind their eyes. I stepped back, immediately, my foot hitting the edge of the doorway. That's when I noticed something else. The seat numbers. They weren't standard. They went too high, rows that shouldn't exist. Numbers repeating, overlapping, like the plane was bigger on the inside than it should be. Then I saw the person from the jet bridge, standing in the aisle now, closer, facing me. And that's when I realized it didn't have a face. Not clearly, just a blur, where features should be. My chest tightened hard. I turned and ran. No hesitation, no second thought. I ran down the jet bridge, back into the terminal, not stopping until I hit the main corridor. I turned back once. The gate was gone. Not closed, not dark, gone. In its place, F-22, normal, lights steady, empty, like nothing had ever been there. I stood there for a long time, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of it, but there was nothing to make sense of. I checked the system logs later that morning. No record of F-27, no Flight 311, no activity at that gate, nothing. I should have left it alone, but I didn't. A week later, same shift, same time. I walked past F-22 again, and for just a second, just a flicker, the sign changed. F-27, then back. My stomach dropped. I kept walking, didn't stop, didn't look back, but I heard it, behind me, soft, calm, the same voice from before, now boarding. And ever since then, every time I walk through an airport late at night, I find myself checking the gate numbers. Story 7. There's a certain moment during a flight, right after the cabin lights dim, when most people have settled in, and the engines fall into that steady hum, where everything feels suspended, like time isn't moving the same way anymore. That's usually when I relax, or at least I used to. My name's Jason Miller, and I travel a lot for work, mostly late-night flights, the kind where you board half asleep and land feeling like you skip time altogether. I've seen delays, weird passengers, strange routes, but nothing like what happened on that flight. It was supposed to be simple. Boston to Dallas, overnight. I boarded late, one of the last passengers, and the cabin was already dim. Most people were in their seats, quiet, some already asleep. I found my seat, 22A, window, perfect. I like looking out, even if there's nothing to see. Just clouds, darkness, sometimes distant lights. It's calming, or at least it used to be. I sat down, buckled in, and noticed something immediately. The seat next to me, 22B, was empty. That's not unusual. What was unusual was the seatbelt. It was already fastened, not loosely, not draped over the seat, buckled tight, like someone had been sitting there. I frowned. Weird, I muttered under my breath. Maybe a previous passenger forgot to unbuckle it. Happens. I didn't think much of it at the time. The plane pushed back, taxied, took off. Smooth, no issues. Within minutes we were cruising. Lights dimmed, that familiar quiet settling in. I leaned my head against the window, watching the darkness outside. Nothing unusual, nothing at all. Then I heard it, a click, right next to me. I looked over. The seatbelt in 22B was unbuckled now. I stared at it, my chest tightening slightly. Okay, I whispered. That didn't just happen. I looked around. No one nearby reacting, no one even awake. Everything looked normal. I leaned over slightly and rebuckled it myself. Firm, secure. Then I sat back, tried to ignore it, told myself it was turbulence or vibration, even though there hadn't been any. A few minutes passed, maybe 10, maybe less. Then, click, I turned my head slowly. The belt was open again, hanging loosely. My stomach dropped just a little. All right, that's enough, I said quietly. I pressed the call button. A flight attendant came by, calm, professional. Everything okay? I hesitated, feeling a little ridiculous. Yeah, just this seatbelt keeps unbuckling. She glanced at it, then at me, slight smile. Sometimes they don't latch properly. I'll fix it. She clicked it in place, gave it a small tug, nodded. There you go. Thanks, I said. She moved on. I sat there, staring at it, waiting. Nothing happened. For a while, I started to relax again. Maybe she was right. Maybe it just wasn't latched properly. I closed my eyes, tried to sleep. That's when I felt it. The seat shift, slight, subtle, but real, like someone just sat down next to me. My eyes snapped open. I turned slowly. 22B was still empty, but the cushion, it was slightly compressed. My breathing got a little heavier. No way, I whispered. I lifted my hand and hovered it just above the seat. I could feel it. Warmth, not heat, just presence, like someone had been sitting there for a while. I pulled my hand back immediately. My heart was picking up now, fast. Too fast. I pressed the call button again, harder this time. The same attendant returned. Yes, I leaned in slightly. I think someone's sitting here. She blinked, looked at the seat, then back at me. Sir, the seat is empty. I know how it looks, I said, my voice tighter now. But it's not. I can feel it. She paused, studied me for a moment, then gave a polite, careful nod. Okay, why don't you stretch your legs for a bit? I can move you to another seat. I didn't argue. I stood up immediately, grabbed my bag, followed her a few rows back. New seat, aisle this time. I didn't like it, but I wasn't going back there. I sat down, trying to calm myself. You're just tired, that's all, I told myself. The attendant gave me a reassuring smile and walked away. I leaned back, closed my eyes again, tried to breathe, slow, steady, but something felt wrong. Not just with that seat, with the whole cabin. It felt quieter than before, too quiet. I opened my eyes, looked around, and that's when I noticed something. Everyone was still, not sleeping, not shifting, just still, completely still, heads facing forward, no movement, no breathing patterns, nothing. My chest tightened. Okay, that's not normal, I whispered. I stood up slightly, leaning into the aisle. Hello? No response. No one moved. The flight attendants, gone, nowhere in sight. I turned back toward my original row, 22A, 22B, and that's when I saw it. Someone was sitting there now, in 22B, facing forward. I couldn't see their face clearly, just the outline, still, motionless. My throat went dry. No, I whispered, slowly. The figure turned its head toward me, and I felt it, even from that distance, its eyes, locked onto mine. I stumbled back into my seat, heart racing out of control now. This isn't happening, This isn't happening, I repeated under my breath. The lights flickered once, just once, and when they came back, everyone was gone. Every seat, empty, completely empty. My breath caught. I stood up again, spinning slowly. Hello? My voice echoed slightly. No response, just the sound of the engines, and something else, a faint, clicking sound. I looked down the aisle. Row by row, seat belts were fastening, on their own. Click, then another, click, one by one, moving toward me. My chest felt like it was collapsing. I backed up slowly. No, no, no. Click, closer, click, closer, until it reached my row, the empty seat next to me. The belt lifted slightly, then snapped shut, tight, like something invisible had just sat down. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Then, slowly, I felt it again, the seat beside me shifting, weight settling, presence returning, and then, right next to my ear, a whisper, cold, close. You moved. I bolted, ran down the aisle, not caring where I was going, just needing to get away from that seat, that voice, that feeling. I reached the front of the cabin and stopped, because the cockpit door was open, and inside, no pilots, no crew, just empty chairs and darkness beyond the windshield. No lights, no horizon, nothing, just black, endless black. I stepped back slowly, my legs barely holding me up. Then, the intercom clicked, that same whisper, now everywhere. Return to your seat. I shook my head. No, no. My voice cracked, the cabin lights flickered again, and suddenly, everything was normal. Passengers back, movement, soft chatter, flight attendants walking the aisle like nothing had happened. I stood there, frozen. The attendant from before approached me. Sir, are you okay? I looked at her, then back toward row 22. The seat was empty again, seatbelt unbuckled, like nothing had ever touched it. I didn't say anything, just nodded, slowly walked back, sat down, buckled in. I didn't sleep the rest of the flight, didn't look out the window, didn't move. And when we landed, everything was normal, too normal, no reports, no delays, nothing. But sometimes, when I'm on a plane and the cabin gets quiet, I feel it again, that shift in the seat next to me, that weight, that presence, and I don't look anymore, because I know if I turn my head, it won't be empty this time. Story 8. There's something about airport announcements, the way they echo slightly, stretching words just enough to feel distant, like they're not always meant for you. My name's Derek Lawson, and I used to work night shifts at an airport information desk in Florida. It was one of those jobs where nothing really happens after midnight, just the occasional lost traveler, delayed flight questions, directions to baggage claim. Easy work, predictable. Until one night, it wasn't. It was around 3:05 a.m. when things started to feel off, not suddenly, more like gradually, like the air itself was changing. The terminal was nearly empty, just a few scattered passengers sleeping across chairs, cleaning staff moving quietly in the distance. I was sitting behind the desk, scrolling through flight updates, when the announcement system activated. That wasn't unusual, except there were no scheduled announcements at that time. I looked up at the speakers as the chime played, soft, familiar. Then the voice came through, calm, clear. Final boarding call for Flight 702. I frowned immediately. Flight 702 wasn't on the board. I checked the system in front of me. Nothing. No listing, no delay, no gate assignment, just nothing. The announcement continued. All remaining passengers, please proceed to gate H12. Then it cut off, mid-sentence, like someone unplugged it. I sat there for a moment, staring at the screen. That's weird, I muttered. Probably a system glitch. Happens sometimes. Old airports, old wiring, things overlap. That's what I told myself. But then, a man approached the desk, mid-40s, tired-looking, slightly confused. Hey, where's gate Hodedge 12? He asked. I paused. Hodeded. Yeah, they just called it Flight 702. My chest tightened slightly. "There's no HOD," I said. "Our gates only go up to H9. He frowned. "That doesn't make sense. I just heard it." I gave a small, uncertain smile. "Probably a system error. No such flight listed." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right, thanks." He walked away, but he didn't look convinced. Neither was I. A few minutes passed. Quiet again. Too quiet. Then the announcement played again. Same chime, same voice. "Final boarding call for Flight 702, Gate H12. This time, it didn't cut off. It finished. "This will be the last call." I felt a chill run through me. I checked the system again. Still nothing. No record, no update, no change. But something else caught my attention. Movement. A few of the passengers who had been sleeping were now standing, slowly, one by one, like they had all heard something meant specifically for them. I leaned forward slightly, watching. They didn't look at each other, didn't speak, just started walking in the same direction, toward the far end of the terminal, toward where gate H12 would be if it existed. My stomach tightened. "Okay, that's not normal," I whispered. I stood up from the desk. I don't know why. I should have stayed put, called someone, ignored it. But I didn't. I followed them, slowly, keeping my distance. The hallway grew quieter the further I went. Lights slightly dimmer, air colder. The signs above the gates passed by. H6, H7, H8, H9, and then something that shouldn't have been there. H12. I stopped walking. My chest tightening. The sign looked real, not flickering, not broken, clean, solid, like it had always been there. But I knew it hadn't. I knew it couldn't be. The passengers kept moving, calm, silent, walking straight toward the gate. I swallowed hard. "This isn't happening," I whispered, but it was. I stepped closer. The gate area looked different from the rest of the terminal. Darker, quieter, like sound didn't travel the same way. The boarding desk was empty. No staff, no equipment, just a single open doorway leading into the jet bridge. And from inside, a faint light. The passengers didn't hesitate. They walked straight through, one by one. No scanning passes, no checking tickets, just entering, like they already knew they were supposed to be there. I felt something pulling at me, not physically, but mentally, like a quiet suggestion in the back of my mind. Go, just go. I shook my head slightly. No, but my feet moved anyway. Step by step, I got closer. The last passenger disappeared into the jet bridge. I stood at the entrance, heart pounding, listening. At first, nothing. Then, that same low murmur. Voices, many voices, all overlapping. I leaned slightly, looking inside. The jet bridge stretched out longer than it should have, much longer, and at the end, there was a plane, bigger than any aircraft I'd seen parked at that terminal. No airline markings, no logos, just blank. I took one step inside. The air shifted instantly, heavier, thicker, like walking underwater. I stopped halfway down. That's when I noticed something. The passengers, they were still walking, but not normally. Their movements were slower, slightly delayed, like they weren't fully in control. My chest tightened more. "Turn around," I whispered to myself, but I didn't. I kept watching. One by one, they entered the plane, disappearing inside. No hesitation, no resistance, just gone. Then silence, complete silence. The voices stopped. The movement stopped. Everything stopped. I stood there, frozen, unsure what to do next. Then the announcement played again, but this time it wasn't coming from the terminal. It was coming from inside the plane. Boarding complete. My heart dropped. Slowly, very slowly, I stepped back, one step, then another. And as I did, I noticed something. The jet bridge. It was getting shorter. Or maybe I was moving faster than I thought. I don't know. But the distance between me and the terminal closed quickly, too quickly. I stepped out into the gate area. Turned around immediately. The jet bridge was gone, completely gone. In its place, a wall, plain, solid, like nothing had ever been there. My breathing became uneven, fast, shallow. I turned back toward the terminal. The gate sign flickered. H12, then H9, normal again. Everything looked normal, too normal. I walked back slowly, step by step, trying to process what just happened, trying to find any explanation that made sense, but nothing did. When I got back to the desk, everything was exactly as I left it. Screens normal, lights steady, no sign anything had changed. I checked the system again. No flight 702, no H12, nothing, like it never existed. I should have quit right then, but I didn't. I stayed, for another week, trying to convince myself it was just a glitch, a trick of the mind, until the last night, around the same time, 3:05 a.m., the announcement played again, same chime, same voice, now boarding. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I grabbed my things and walked out, didn't look back, haven't gone near that airport since, but sometimes, when I'm in a quiet place, late at night, I hear it again. That same announcement, faint, distant, final boarding call for flight 702, and I can't help but wonder how many people actually made that flight, and where it went, and what would have happened if I had taken one more step forward, because something tells me it wasn't taking passengers to another city, it was taking them somewhere else entirely, and once you board, you don't come back.